Hello class, welcome back. Today we're going to be picking up the idea of perspective. Perspective is dealing with planes and how these planes are organized according to our vision in space. So in other words, how we view reality is different than how reality actually is. And what I mean by that is if you were to think of two parallel lines, do two parallel lines ever meet in infinity? So if I had infinity up here and I have two parallel lines, would those ever meet if they just kept going and going and going? And you would have to say, of course not. However, the way perspective works is two parallel lines do meet in infinity, and all of you have seen this. If you stood on a railroad track, you would have noticed that the rails go to the horizon line. Now the horizon line is going to be important for us in a moment, but a horizon line would be there, and is what would happen with how you perceive a road or a railroad track is it would do this. And we would be standing here, and you would be seeing it converge to the horizon line. So what happens is with perspective, it goes according to how you perceive things, not the way it really is. And that's what makes it really challenging. Because the top of a box, we don't think that they're angling back in space. We just think they're verticals and horizontals, and they're truly not. So all of you have a handout, and the front of the cover looks like this. And what I'm going to have you do is pull it out, and it will say September 17th on it, assignment number 5. So you want to look at this handout. In here, I did put in things about 1-point perspective. Unfortunately, I forgot to put in things about 2-point perspective as I looked back into it. But I am going to be explaining all of that. So today I'm explaining how this system of perspective works with the system. Then we're going to talk about what you're going to do with it in light of drawing boxes and how we're going to cite them. And you'll see how it comes together. So to begin this, what we're going to do is show you a little bit about planes. So planes are surfaces of an object. So this surface of this object, a box, is parallel to the picture plane, meaning parallel to your drawing paper, parallel to your eyes. So a plane would be technically this, and this is parallel to you. This is how 1-point perspective begins. On 1-point perspective, there's always one plane parallel to the picture plane. If it's turned, and there is no plane parallel to the picture plane, we now are in a different situation, and it's considered 2-point perspective, which we're going to talk about today as well. And then I'm going to touch on if it's going deep into space, it begins to turn into 3-point perspective, okay? So we are going to talk about those sorts of things. So a plane is a flat surface. To represent this, I could symbolize it by doing this. This is a flat surface as well. Flat because there's only a vertical and a horizontal. So is what creates the illusion of the third dimension is not a vertical, not a horizontal. It's going to be what I put up here now, and it's going to be a diagonal. So this diagonal line is going to create the illusion of our depth that's taking place in the drawing or the painting. Now, these things can be set up where I could have a plane, and I could take one and I could move it a little higher. I could put a little angle to it like this. And I can maybe even take a third one and bring it a little steeper at a steeper angle, and maybe run through a simple one in the background that's parallel. So now we've got two parallel planes, verticals, horizontal, and you got these two. So is what happens with your angles, as you can see, it's giving an angle in space now that's retreating like this. It's turning into your surface. And is what's opening up the illusion is our angle. Okay, so the angles are going to be crucial. How steep the angles are is what we will talk about, of course, within the perspective. So, to symbolize this, you have a vertical, you have a horizontal. Things in the visual arts, as I mentioned with gesture drawing, work by relationships. If I just put a diagonal here, it doesn't mean much. But if you see a diagonal in the midst of a plane that's parallel, you get an illusion. So if I put a diagonal in here, like that, now when you look at it, the diagonal, this feels closer, this feels like it's going deeper beyond the horizontal and the vertical line. So basically the illusion is set up because your mind sees a parallel plane. The angle then creates the illusion of the depth. So that's the idea of surface planes and what fronts and sides of boxes are going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and we're going to put on your paper. Now you're going to follow along with me. So all of you want to pull out a pencil, preferably a 2B or a 4B, and you're going to put on a horizontal line, leave some room on the top. And as what we're going to do is on this line in the middle, you're going to put a point. This is going to represent your central vanishing point. And with 1 point perspective, you only have 1 point. So is what we're going to do, this eye level and the horizon line in nature are synonymous. They're both the same thing. So if you're out by Lake Michigan and you're sitting on the beach, if you're sitting, the horizon line would be low, which means the body of the water you wouldn't see much. You climb a sand dune, the horizon line's going to go up with your eye level. So it's always going to be at your eye level, which means the body of the water just got wider. So this is going to become important for us. It's horizon line, for us, eye level, okay? So when you're going to be drawing the boxes on your own in a little bit, and even though we're going to do them by sighting, you have to always take in consideration your eye level to the box. So in other words, I can have this box low, and then I can say it's below my eye level, and for me, for you guys looking at it this way, it would be a little bit to the right of my field of vision. So in other words, I could start a box below my eye level and to the right of your field of vision by doing this. And all of you, of course, will do the same. So you're going to put a parallel rectangle up there to the picture plane. So now we know central vanishing point. This is where you're standing. This now is located below your eye level, and it's to the right of your eye level. So it's what we do with this system, as we were talking about with a railroad track. If you have a ruler, definitely use it. I'm going to use a ruler later on in here. But right now I'm just going to connect these lines, and it takes me a moment. Being off to the side of it, trying to get straight lines is not an easy task. So what you're going to do is you're going to converge the 3 corners that you see. Okay? And then what you're going to do is just like what we started. If you saw a road going back or the railroad tracks going back, the lines are going to converge to where you're standing. Okay, so this is representing you here. You're going to see the left side of this box. Therefore now, this is a made-up box. Now you want to put a horizontal line. However far back you want to make it is totally up to you. And now we would place a vertical, needs to be vertical between these 2 angles. And somehow that's, a lot of times that can be very tricky to get, because whenever you're working between 2 angles, it's hard to tell what's vertical. So a lot of times with your ruler is what you're going to have to do is hold on to a vertical line and transfer it to keep it nice and straight. Now I'm going to have you in this cube to do this. You're going to come up with the lines from the inside corners. Do this with it. Oh, we got that one. So we're going to do that to get this one. We're going to cross this over from this corner. Okay. So this is the height of this. This is where it stops. This comes over. This corner now drops and meets it. Now, when you do a transparent box, you do want to keep in mind this. You want to make the lines in front darker. So if you can get them a little thicker and a little darker, and the ones behind, use less pressure and keep them lighter, so that this doesn't jump out at you, so this always stays the front. It's important to come up with transparent boxes, because eventually we're going to be putting ellipses in boxes, and we're going to be making them transparent like this, as well as doing objects out of boxes like this. So, is what we're going to do. We're going to do another one. I think I'm just going to put it about here. This time we're going to put one over the horizon line. So you're going to do it. Doesn't have to be in the middle, but it wants to overlap your eye level. Then is what we're going to do is we're going to take our converging lines to our vanishing point. This time you only have 2 visible lines. Here you had 3, here you have 2. Make it a little simpler, we'll do that. This one we're making up again, so you come up with however wide you want it, the depth, and then you're going to put a vertical line. Strengthen your edges a little bit, okay? I'm making my converging lines a little heavy. You don't have to. You can keep them very light. So now we've got a 1-point perspective, like a building almost, that represents your eye level is right in the middle of it. So that would be like me taking this box and having it right at my eye level, where the middle is exactly at my eye level, is what I've done. However, even though it's at the middle of my eye level, it also is to the right of my eye level. So is what we're going to do with our transparent box. We're going to take from our central vanishing point, and we're going to connect the visible corners like this, from here to here, and from here to here. So now we've got these 2 corners, the ones that we don't see converging, and then you're going to take this, because if I have it right, this should just be parallel, horizontal. And then is what we're going to do is we're going to keep this the same as a horizontal, and okay. Let's take the top part of it, converge it. Anyways, I'm going to leave that one just like that. Because what I'm going to do is take one and put it above our eye level. So now we're going to go, say, so now put one above your eye level. This would converge. We get the edge of it in here like this. I'm just going to develop this a little bit just so that you can see it. There we go. Okay, so that's the inside of that one. Now you've got one above your eye level and to the left of your field of vision. So now you've got 3 lines that are going to converge. So take this, take the corner here, converge it, and I'll get out of your way in a minute, and take this one. So now you converge the upper one, this one, and this one. So it's the same thing as the one below it in reverse, is all we're doing. Now it gets to be simple. It's just a repeat performance, because now we're going to drop the front. Always on a 1-point perspective, this is always vertical. As you can see, your side line becomes a diagonal. On the bottom, now we've got to keep our horizontal line horizontal, and you're connecting those points. So now you're doing that very much like the others in reverse. So like the top, now it's just the reverse of the top, so it's doing that. So now you've got one above your eye level, and you can see what happens with them when they're above your eye level. Anything that's up, the sides and bottoms go down. Anything that's down, they go up. So it's an easy thing to remember as you converge your lines in those directions. Okay. Again, you can turn this into a transparent box. Take your corners and transfer that, and you could converge it. And then you would want to watch this one coming up like that, and then you want to watch this one coming over like this on a horizontal. So, but be real careful because it's easy to have them flip over on you. So what I'm going to do is darken this a little bit. So that it goes back, okay? So you want these lines to be a little bolder, a little thicker, so the lines that are converging on the inside to make it look like it's angling in are much lighter. So definitely use less pressure with it. Now I'm going to do one more box, and we're going to put it down here a little bit to the left. So again, exactly the same process. So you're going to start off with your parallel plane. Keep your lines as clean and neat as you can, vertical and horizontal lines. Again, take any of the visible corners and converge them. So now we're taking this corner, vanishing point, lower corner, and of course our top corner. So as you can see, it's a repeat performance. They're all the same. This is to the left of your field of vision, to the right, so everything's just, as you can see, what happens with our radiating lines and how they're turning. We can now make up our side between these two lines. This one I'm going to make a little longer just for the fun of it. So I'm going to carry this one off down like it's going back much further. Take that corner, connect it to your converging line. So, in reality, of course, we know that these lines do not pinch. That's the tricky thing with perspective. Two parallel lines never come together in infinity. If you look down at them, they're vertical and horizontal. So the hard thing with boxes is these lines are, it is wider, it is narrower in terms of our perception. This is going to be much wider than this, even though you might be working with a square box and you know in your mind this is the same distance of this, it's just shrunk. So it's going back in space. We can carry our transparent box in there by dropping this line and carrying this one over. So again, try to keep this horizontal, vertical. Strengthen your outer edges once you do a transparent box so that you can kind of get a sense for its depth without this coming out forward at you and becoming looking like it's jumping out in reverse. Okay. So 1 point perspective. When we work from the boxes is what I'm going to point out now, and then we're going to go on to 2 point perspective. But when we work from boxes, in a little bit, when you set up 2 of your own boxes, you're going to be doing 2 different drawings. One drawing you're going to be doing with 2 boxes, one on the bottom, another one on the top. So immediately after this, you're going to be setting up 2 boxes like this, whatever position you would like it. But you're going to keep them in 1 point perspective, meaning that these 2 boxes, you can't have one turned and one this way. They both have to be front. So they could be over to the right, they can be to the left, they can be overlapped this way, they could be anything like that, but you can't turn them. So with the home or with the work in a moment, that's what you're going to be up to. And is what you're going to be doing, though, is you're going to be locating your eye level. So you're going to be, if you have these set up on a table, you're going to say they're below your eye level. Is what you're not going to do is converge the lines. I'm going to get you to do it by sighting. We're doing this here as a demonstration to get you to see the theory of how this works and why they get narrower and what happens to them. But when you actually do it on your own, you're going to be measuring them. You're going to be saying, how big is this side that's converging in space to this side? So in other words, you're going to be measuring with a stick the box, you're going to be sighting it, and you're going to be saying this side, and you never, when you measure, you never turn this into space. You always keep this parallel to your eyes, which means you turn it like the hands on a clock, so it's always going this way. So if I'm trying to measure this box in reality, I would measure it this way, from going from here to here, and then measure it into the front and decide how big it is. You would do the same with the box you've got in front of you. You're going to take that box from the side that's going in space because of where you're located. You're going to measure it, and then you're going to measure it to the next one. So you're going to do it like this in the box, and then measure it and say it goes in there almost twice. And then you'll know that this is double the size of this. These angles that exist here, there's two ways to get it, since I am not going to have you converge the lines on your drawing, okay? There's two ways you can get it without doing that. This is known as sighting, and this is what I need you to really try to understand and do. I can take this stick and I can tilt it, like I said, to the right or the left, so I can hold this stick right up to this angle, like you guys, like this. So then I can take this stick and I can transfer it to what I'm seeing. So this is hard to do on a videotape, to be sure, because I don't know exactly what you're seeing. But is what I would have to do is tilt this stick to this angle without tipping it in space, but I can't see it from your angle. And then I would take that and transfer it. The other way of doing it is to say, where is this angle if I took a horizontal line across like this? Where does the highest point of that back line meet what we would call this key line in the front? Okay, so you've got that one front line, and this is so high, then I would do that in the drawing. So if I was making this up, or if I had the boxes in front of me, and if it was like this, I would measure my height and width of the box that you're actually drawing. I'd measure it, make sure it's right. If they're equal to each other, good. If it's coming up this high, I would say on this line, it comes up as high as this. So now I would know it's converging that high, and then I have to figure out how wide it is in light of that, and it's almost double. And so then I would have to say this, does it go into this twice? It could be a little smaller, so I could say that goes into that once, twice, that's pretty close. I would know my angle would be accurate, okay, by playing it off of those things. So without converging it to a vanishing point, that's how you're going to get it. So then I would have that relationship to that relationship, okay? So we know what that is doing now. So then we would bring up this line, and once you bring that line up, of course you have to, with the boxes you're going to do, you've got to measure it. How big is that line to this line? So if this one is converged back further, even though you know this box in reality, this is as high as this, no longer that way in perspective. So this goes into this, just about double as well. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to measure this into this and say it goes to there, and then I'm going to take my angle and place it in. Okay, so then I'll know those are pretty close. This I can now somewhat eye. You know, you could take it. I can see you're going to look at a real box, of course, and then I know this is a horizontal line. And so there would be the box, and that would be the actual box that you're drawing in reality. So what we're doing here with the one-point perspective is the theory of how it's done, okay? And you want to understand the theory? Once you understand the theory, you want to be able to make things up. You want to be able to do this. If I make a box 1 point, what if I overlap it here? If I only overlap it a little bit, like this now, that distance I'm showing you, that distance here is saying it's closer to your eye level. So in other words, the higher you get a box, it's the last one I'm going to show you in 1-point perspective before we move on. The higher you get a box like this, the narrower the top of that box is. If this box is right on your eye level, is all you got going for you is that. Okay, this is totally flat. And if you hold the box up to your eyes that way, that's exactly how you're gonna see it. Most artists avoid this scenario. Even if you see it, we would make it a little lower, a little higher. Normally, in a classroom situation, if you ran into a box like that, I would have you slightly change it, either a little bit above or below. So I'm going to get rid of this, and what you're going to do is you're going to stop the tape, and you guys are going to set up 2 boxes of your own, and you're going to draw them in 1-point perspective. Anyways, welcome back. Now we're going to get involved with 2-point perspective. So with 1-point perspective, as we just talked about, you started off this way with an eye level or a horizon line. Into that horizon line, we had 1 point. That point, in a sense, would still be there. This is known as the central vanishing point. Now is what's going to be different, is we're going to have 2 other points. Why in the world would we need 2 other points in 2-point perspective? So now if you have your box, the drawing that you just completed, both of your boxes, one plane should be parallel to your picture plane if you did it accurately. Also with that drawing that you just did, you would want to start it and measure it out by sighting, as I explained so much about. Once you had that done with a hard pencil, you were then to go over it, as it said in the assignment, with a soft pencil and make the lines clean, neat, and straight. So you get a beautiful, clean line drawing. Now, 1-point perspective, because only one plane converged. If this was to the right of your field of vision, then this plane converged. If it was to the other side of your field of vision, this plane converged. Now with 2-point perspective, you have no plane parallel to the picture plane. Now, basically, if you really look at what happens with this in light of your first one, is what happens is you have no more horizontal lines in this design. Is all you have is verticals. There are no horizontals. You have diagonals and verticals, 1-point perspective, horizontals, verticals. So the horizontals are now gone. So as what's taking place, we have what's known as one leading edge. So maybe I'll start it here. So I'm going to start with one leading edge. That's the only thing parallel to the picture plane. The only thing parallel to the picture plane, if your eyes come up here, is this hits parallel like this. That's a parallel line. This edge hits. So is what you're imagining, if you're doing this right, you're imagining in front of your face is a plate of glass. And that plate of glass is coming right up to this object like this. And this object now is behind the glass. And the only thing that touches is this leading edge. That's it. So, is what will happen with this now is we're going to have 2 sides, both have to converge. So one of our sides, I'm going to bring it to this vanishing point, which is, I'm going to call this is the central, this is the left vanishing point, which it would be known, and this is my right vanishing point, which it will be known. So now we have 2 vanishing points. And our leading edge, as I mentioned, plate glass is here in front of you, the corner, and now the box is going back into space. So therefore, if the box is going back into space, just like the rungs of a railway going back to the horizon, these are not going to be parallel in the truest sense of the word. The way our vision's going to see them now is angling rather than being parallel. Again, this is what's tricky with perspective. Most people in their minds have a hard time thinking that two parallel lines are going to meet somewhere on a horizon line, but you got to keep imagining that. So on this side, you're going to take your line and you're going to converge it this way. Now I'm making these a little bit dark. You in a sense, can do a shorthand like this. I can do this and say, I only want my object to be about this big, and I can stop it. And you could do the same, rather than going all the way through. So I'm going to go all the way through for the most part so that you can get the idea. So now we've got two planes converging in different directions. So now this is a made-up box. So we can do anything we want with it. So this is our vertical line. So I'm going to stop this about here. And on this side, we'll make it just a little longer, and I'll stop it here. Okay. So now we've got our frame in place, at least the lower part of it. And now we can see, because of the system of perspective, we see this plane, like I did earlier, freehand, when we were doing this to get planes to converge, is what we were doing is this. Now that's doing the same thing. This is a little more accurate. These angles are a little different, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. To finish the box, the easiest way to think about this is the parallel plane to this one is the one immediately behind it. So therefore, they got to converge to the same vanishing point. The way that I always remember it is with perspective, everything is reverse. So anything on the left converges to the right. Anything on the right converges to the left. Anything that's down goes up. Anything that's up goes down. That's the easiest way to think of it. So we're going to take this point and converge it to our right vanishing point. And we're going to take the one on the right and converge it to the left vanishing point. And so you'll end up with this situation. So now we've got a decent enough two-point perspective box, but we are going to make this a transparent box. So remember, with your transparent boxes, you got to take the two corners that are invisible on the inside and converge them. So now we're going to take, of course, the one on the left. Like I said, they're always going to cross. So the one on the left has got to go to the right. And the one on the right, the buried corner, or the one inside of the box, has got to go to the left. So we're going to do this. And now I'm only interested if they're right where they cross. So I'm going to do this. Where they cross each other is what's most crucial. If the perspective is right, this should be a vertical line. If you get it off a little bit, it's not exactly vertical. And so that can become a problem. So you kind of cross it over like that, and then you got the feel of the box. So I'm going to strengthen my key line in the front, and I'm going to strengthen my lines in the front so that it doesn't flip-flop on the inside, and I'm going to edit these. So now you've got a two-point perspective box. With these two-point perspective boxes, if this had a flap on it, maybe some of the boxes you're going to draw at home will have that. I hope they do. I am going to show you how to get it on this, and then we're going to do a couple more of them. So what you would do if this has a flap on it, you take the corner that's the closest. A flap could come out this way, this way, this way, whatever way you put it. Sometimes they could go up. Since I'm making this up, I'm going to angle it maybe about like this. So I'm going to put an angle to it like this. Say if the flap is coming out like that. Okay. So it's what we have to do before we get this one. Since they're in perspective, this is further in space than this. This is parallel to the picture plane. This is in depth. So now we've got to converge that to this side. So with perspective, you're always trying to decide what angle are you converging. So that's going to do this. So I'm going to carry that out like that. And then since this side is the same as this, since this is a plane, the top of the box, you take this side and you just pull it over to the corner of the box, and then you strike in your line like this, and then you've got your flap for this side of the box. And hopefully some of you have boxes like this and you'll be able to put them in the still life. If we're in class, I would certainly have you do them like this. I might take one and flip this one this way. And I'm going to turn it in a little bit as if it's coming up, just to show them to you in different directions. And then this one again would transfer over, okay, because we got to get this one, remember. So then we take this, take the same line, hold it alongside it so it's a parallel line, and then connect your points, strengthen your edge. Now on this particular one, it feels like our angle of our box, of course, is moving in. So you can pull these in any way, shape, or form you would like. I'm going to do one last one, and then I think you've pretty much got the idea. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do it. And I think I'm going to let it stick almost straight out. So I'm going to do this with this one, and I'm going to converge it this way. So again, you're trying to decide what side are you on. This flap is on the left side. It's going to this vanishing point. This parallel, I almost have it horizontal, not quite, goes to this one. And now we've got the look of flaps moving on a box. Okay. So again, if you have a box like that, you want to use it, feel free. But I'm going to leave that one, and I'm going to put one above our eye level. So, that's what you want to do with these boxes. On your own, you want to experiment with them. Maybe I'll put this one over here. And what you want to do is, on your own, you want to experiment with them in all different places. Trying to do boxes in two-point perspective, on your eye level, just below, just above, to the far right, to the far left. You want to get so familiar with doing boxes, because boxes are going to become the foundation of all types of things we're going to do with drawing. So this with a system is easy once you understand it. Anybody can kind of pick this up. But the hard part about it is to understand the logic of it without drawing all these converging lines. And that's what I'm going to try to get you guys to do. I'm going to bring that way, as we're now got a box above our eye level, so it's the same thing as we did below, but all in reverse. So connect your lines. This one's coming way over. Okay, I'll try to get that one a little darker for you. Okay, so now we're above everything. So all of our lines are going down. So we come up, again, the same idea. We come up with how big we want to make this, okay? So we decide like that. This one, I think I'll let it go back even further for the fun of it. And so this is imaginary. You can do whatever you want with them. The ones that you guys are about to set up, not quite as easy because you've got to measure them all. Measuring is what takes the time, but I need you to understand it both ways. So that's going to converge that way, right? Just like this one went that way. And we got one other corner now to deal with, right? So it's this one over here. And we know the one from the right goes to the left. So again, they're always going in the backwards. Now I don't have to draw this line totally over. I'm just going to do this. I think all of you get the idea. I've got it connected to that. So these are in relationship to each other because of this point of how you would be viewing it. If you were standing here at our central vanishing point, that object is to the right of your field of vision and above. And so now we've got that moving up. Now, is what's going to happen with edges of things. If you have a corner that becomes low, is what happens is this edge of your box is going to become what we call very acute. Okay, so acute means these two are very tight, the angles are very strong. If it was three-point perspective, which I'll show you in just a little bit, this might angle in like this, and then this line is going to have a strong angle to it this way, and this is going to have a strong angle to it this way. And this is going to come up, and this is going to come over. Okay, so then you got an object in a very steep perspective. Now, the steeper it goes down, the further it goes down, the greater this angle becomes, the more acute it becomes. The closer it becomes to this horizon line, this angle is going to widen. It's important to understand this. That corner is going to widen as it comes up. And so then if I was to kind of put on maybe a three-point perspective box slightly, it would get a little greater down here. This angle would become a little stronger. This angle a little stronger than this. And this as well. And these are a little wider, the way I've got them. So then you're going to get a box like that. Okay. Now, this is known as obtuse, and this is acute. Okay, the steeper they go. So, on a box in perspective, this angle, this relationship here, you should even see it in this drawing, even though it's not in any deep perspective. This angle here is different than this angle here. This is a little wider, this is a little tighter. Okay, we always watch that on boxes. So as what you can know, the further something is below your eye level, the further down it is, the more acute the angle becomes. The closer it gets to your eye level, the more obtuse it becomes. It becomes wider and wider as this moves up like this. Okay, and that's going to get real wide. And the closer I get that to that line, it even gets more so, and this becomes tighter. So those angles you want to be aware of. I'm going to get rid of this, and I want to show you just a couple of other things quickly in two-point perspective, just so that you can kind of get a better understanding of this and how we think of it and the importance of planes. Because everything, illusions in drawing are created by planes at various angles to the picture plane. So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to draw a horizon line. Keep it, and you guys are drawing along with me. Keep it where you got space above. And I'm going to put a line here, and I'm going to have it equal, like the horizon line is going to be midway of this line. So say if I bring it to about there, and I'm going to measure this, and you do the same. So this is half of this. Okay, so now we've got it. This is going to be one vanishing point here. I've got my line. Don't put it dead center of your vanishing points. This one, my right vanishing point, is going to be here, and my left vanishing point is here. So as you can see, less room, more room. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 boxes, but we're going to do them in a group. So what we do is we connect these points. It's important to understand how to do a larger box and break it down to smaller ones, because it's a lot easier sometimes taking the many out of one rather than stacking up a whole lot of them, trying to get them equal. This is a lot easier in the end. So connect these points, because it's a 2-point perspective situation. So it's like I'm making a big 2-point perspective box here. So you started off that way. Now, this is going to be a box in 2-point perspective, so I'm going to keep this side a little narrower. So as you guys follow along, keep your line vertical, and that's what I'm shooting to do here. So I'm going to do this. So basically, I'll get out of your way in just one second. I'm going to strengthen the line. So anyways, that's going to be one side of this big box, okay? And I'm going to go after my next one. I'm going to keep it a little wider on this side, hopefully, if all goes well. So I got it a little bit wider on this side, so you can measure them. Try to keep them on equal. Always looks better. We'll strengthen this line a little bit. Okay, so now you've got, I'm going to lighten this line even though it's important. Don't get rid of yours. So now we've got a big 2-point perspective box. If it's below your eye level, this is how it's going to appear. If it's above your eye level, this is how it's going to appear. So, is what we're going to do is divide this, my guideline, my central line, from this point to this point, we're going to divide it in half because we're going to come up with a cube here. So that's not quite equal. So kind of get it equal. Get equal point, equal parts. So that looks real close. So there's my first division. Above your horizon line, that's the bottom now. Come up with a midway point between here and top. I'm going to guess at this. And I think I could bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to do it and do it again and say it's pretty close. So I'm just going to keep it here. So anyways, there's my 2 halfway points. Okay. All of you've got that. Now, basically, this is going to be a box. This is going to be a box. This is going to be a box. And this is going to be a box. Okay, so I've got them all divided equally. So what we're going to do, since this is a box, this is how I need you to perceive this. Now we're going to come up with the top of this one. So we're going to take that. And remember, that's got to go to your left on this side of your line. On this side of your line, it's taking it to the right. Okay. Now we've got our edge, but we're looking down at this box, right? So therefore, we got to take this corner and converge it that way, and this corner, we got to converge it that way. So again, you got to keep imagining, use your mind, think about these things when you're making them up like this. So you're going this way, and now I've got to take this one and of course go across to that side, and then we'll get the top of this box since it's below our eye level. So now this will cross over. Okay. So now we've got the feel of that box in perspective from our center. If I had my central vanishing point, it would be somewhere here. So this is a little bit to the left of our field of vision. So is what I'm going to do with this one before we construct the other one. We're going to put a bottom to this one. So we're going to make it transparent. So to do that, of course, you're going to carry this line across to this vanishing point. These I'm not going to keep real, on yours, don't have the lines real heavy. Keep them somewhat light. On here, I'm keeping them a little darker than I ought to, just because I need you to see them. Okay, so there we are. So we've got our bottom, it's crossing there. These eventually are going to line up somewhere in that area. Okay. As our box. Okay, so we got our first box in place. Now is what we're going to do is I'm going to edit that. This is our division on this box. So now we're going after this one. So you're taking the bottom of this. Now we're looking up at this one. So take this one, converge it. Take this side, bring it over. Same thing, always just, it's after a while, it almost becomes monotonous. It's just the same thing, just in reverse. Okay, so this is my leading edge. I do want to be aware of it. Leading edges on 2-point perspective, very crucial. on your drawings, you know, that you're going to be doing. Keep these lines strong, and if they're a little bit thicker than your others, that's good because it begins to push this one back in light of that one. Okay, so we got our first construction in there. Now we got to take this corner and bring it over to our right vanishing point. Okay, and of course we take this corner and bring it over to our left vanishing point. Okay. This now, I'm going to strengthen this line. This is the middle box. And this one, I'm going to strengthen this line. And this is our other box. And there's all of our boxes together. So this is this one. This is at your eye level. Therefore, it's just perfectly straight across. And then we got the one above and this smaller one because I didn't get it measured perfectly equal. But that's how you kind of get a group of boxes together when you're measuring them. So I'm going to show you one last thing with 2-point perspective, which gets to be a little bit fun. It's going to take a little extra time, but for some of you, I think it's going to be worth it because it'll get you to think a little bit about angles of lines and how to break them down in light of a solid block construction, and it's going to come in handy for us. Before I do that, and I'm going to do that quickly, so but is what I'm going to have you guys do is stop the videotape, and is what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing your 2-point perspective boxes. So the other part of the assignment that you're going to see on the assignment is to set up 2 boxes in 2-point perspective. So is what you can do is you'll have one 2-point perspective, you know, a corner could be right at you, another, as long as a plane is not parallel to you, you're okay. So you can have them both slightly different. You know, one could be like this, one could be like that. One's going to be on top of the other. So you're going to figure out how you want to set it up. So the first one that you did, they're both in 1-point perspective. It could be to the left, to the right of your field of vision, below your field of vision, above your field of vision. It could be wherever, but you don't do it directly down your field of vision. The one in 2-point perspective, the corner has got to be coming out at you. Not perfectly, it can, but as long as one plane is not parallel, the plane's got to have an angle to it. Again, when you do that, is what you have to really, really, really watch is if you're making up the box, if this is your box at your leading edge, say your first line is angling just slightly this way, you got to measure this on your boxes. So say if it's set up like this, where it's just a little bit of an angle, there's a horizontal line, a little bit of an angle. Say if this side of your box, you've got it set up where it's going deeper, like this. So is what you have to figure out then is on your box, you have to measure your box. It's going to be sitting back here. So you got to measure the height to the width. This one happens to be very narrow and long. Okay. Whatever yours is what it's going to be. So you got to measure this distance to this distance. This I'm doing is equal, but find out what yours is. This angle you've got to take then from back here, and you've got to say if this is a box at that angle, you got to tilt this to that angle. You got to tilt it and say, what angle is that box on? And then you can take that angle and transfer it to your drawing. So you want to know what this is, and you do not want to turn it in this way. It's got to stay parallel to your eyes, parallel to the picture plane. The other way we talked about is carrying this line over. So if that's what it is in reality, you do that, you measure the back corner of the box. So again, if this is tilted in like this a little bit from your field of vision, you got to say, take in this back corner, you got to figure out where it is to this line. It's easy to do. You just take it and carry a horizontal line from the back corner. Once you have that, I see where that is on this line, and it's up almost halfway, a little below. And then you check your box and see if it's the same, and then you know that's right. And then you would check this line, and you'd bring it up. Sometimes this is going to be a little smaller than this, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So say this line's a little smaller than that because it's in perspective. Then this line will carry over this way. Make your lines clean and neat. In reality, we found out these things spiral. So if this is like this is steeper. So in other words, these two are not parallel. This angle and this angle are different, as you know. If you have your vanishing point, one angle, if it's doing this, is going to be this way. The other one's going to be doing it. They're going to rotate and change, okay? So you want to watch that. There's a slight difference. This one has a slight difference. It looks good. This will come back as a horizontal line. And then this angle, once you find it and you know what it is, you can pretty much transfer it over. These are not perfectly the same. They're close. This does this, and there's even a little difference between this one and that one. So check them. Again, you are not going to converge the lines to a vanishing point when you do the boxes you're making up. You're going to sight them, and you should be able to get them without a problem. So anyways, that's it. So those boxes have planes. So where this is going to go, as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you something with this. The one I was going to do with a cube and divide it, I'm not going to do it now because time's getting away. But I do want to show you something with how to think about this, because when I was a student, they never taught me how to do this. And if you can make this connection with drawing these boxes, you won't just do these boxes saying, this guy wants me to draw these boxes. This is incredibly boring. You want to really take note to this, and you want to take note to these angles, because as what you'll do then, if I'm doing a duck like this, and you just think about it with planes, is what you say is this is a front plane. So then I say, what angle is that? And then I say the front of that duck's body. Now I'm going to do this real general and simple. We know this is what angle, class? If this would be parallel, so if I have it turned like I do, this is 2-point perspective. So I just want to connect this with the boxes. We're going to talk much about this, but I just want you to just barely begin to think about it so that you can relate it to the boxes you're doing. So if I went like that, you see it's 2-point perspective. Here's your leading edge. This is going back, and this is going back. So we think of it like this. This is a side. So then I'm going to think about it like this, as a simple side. So this is a side plane. It's a plane. This is a box. I just relate it to a box. This is so much fun to play with, you guys. So you're using a conceptual idea to draw something. So now we got this and this. I tapered it because it goes up. This is what, class? Where the highlight is on. This is a plane break. Why? It's because this side turns from this side. Therefore, this is the top of our box. So if that's the top of our box, that tells me there is a surface that's riding up there like this. So now we've got a surface, and, oops, hold on everybody. This angle is what I'm shooting for back here. This angle should be parallel to, like a box. This angle parallel to this angle. Follow me. This angle parallel to that angle. This angle parallel to that angle. I'm not going to put in any of the subtleties in this thing. I just want you to see the connections of why drawing boxes are so incredibly important. The neck of this duck, when we look at it, if you reduced it to planes, you have a front and you have a side. And so then I'm going to reduce it to that. So the front has got to be parallel to this. Again, follow me. This line is parallel to this. The front of his neck is doing this. Under his head, it's got to be like a box. This angle, this angle, this angle. So if you don't draw just by visually, but you draw by what you know, so much easier. So this angle has got to be this, okay? Then we said there's a side, and the side is doing this, and this side comes up. So now there's a side, and there's a front, right? So now we've got our big surfaces like a box, okay? And that's all I'm trying to get you to see. So, a head is what we're going to look at is, from your angle, there's one side, another side, and a front. So you see one side and this side. The easy way to work with it is to say this side curves this way. So I'm going to use a curve, but think of it as a box. And then I'm going to put another one in there as a curve. So I'm overlapping. Overlapping is a part of perspective. This is a box like this. Overlapping one from the other. I'll darken this one. So this one's slightly overlapped that way. That's why overlapping boxes is crucial. That's what this is. His beak, where is it? It's down about maybe here. So now I'm going to bridge the gap. Here's the beak, or the beak is down here. And then we're going to say, what does the beak do? And there's a top plane to it, like a box, all like a box. This angle is this angle. These got to connect.